So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at 5 ways that you can use aluminium foil in your resin to get some amazing effects from it. Some of them are really simple and some of them take a little bit longer, but they are still easy to do. And I make a lot of jewelry, as I've said many times, and the actual foil itself really does give some great effects to your final pieces. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to take the foil. I take a small piece of foil like this, okay, and that is going to go in this square one, but it doesn't have to go in the square one. It can go in any of them. And now all I'm going to do is flatten that out nicely before I do anything else. And then I'm going to get some chameleon powders. And if you haven't got chameleon powders, you can always use mica powder. And then what I'm going to do is get my gilding glue. Oh my God, I love this stuff. If there's something you're going to get in your studio, then get yourself some gilding glue because you won't regret it, I promise you. And then I'm going to paint this onto my foil like this, and it's going to create little cells in places, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to give that a good coating over and then leave that to dry for a few minutes until that's gone perfectly clear. So that's now gone lovely and clear, and what I can do is use my chameleon powder on here and brush that on very lightly all the way over that, and that's going to stick really well to that foil. The great thing is the foil will still shine through that as well to give it that extra dimension. You can use multiple colors if you wish. And now what I'm going to do is just blow off the excess, take that up, and then blow off that excess. And now you're left with that. Look how pretty that is. And now what I want to do is tear this off in some rough edges. So I've not got any edges that are not covered in the actual mica powder. And these bits like this, I'm going to keep, and I'll show you why in a minute. And now all I'm going to do is crumple that up so it fits nicely into there. So there we go. That fits really well into there. Give this a little bit of a clean up. And now move on to the next one. I actually want quite a larger piece of foil this time for this next one. And again, I'm just going to smooth this out best I can before I do the next part on this. For this one, what I'm going to be using is some alcohol inks. I'm just going to drip some alcohol on there like that. Give it a bit of a spray and then get a brush and then move that around so it gives me some patterns. And now all I'm doing is going around and adding some drops of color and then leaving it to dry. And this is just 99% alcohol I'm dropping on here. And now I'm going to leave that to fully dry. So that's nice and dry now, and I think the pattern on that has come out really pretty. Once again, I'm going to go around this and take off quite a bit, put on. So I'm only left with the colours that I put on here because I don't want the silver to show through. Well, I don't want the silver edges, I mean. I do want some of the silver to show through. There we go. So I've got that. And now these bits I'm going to use for something else that I've cut off here. I'm going to put those in my little savey pot. And now this is ready to be used in the mould. I can either do another crinkle one like this, or I can decide which bit I particularly like. And I really do like this bit here. Yeah, I like that. I think that's very pretty. And I can put that in my round mould. And the reason I'm using foil and not gold leaf or leaf is this is so much more robust than gold leaf. And you can do so much more with it. So yeah, I like that. So now I know what size to cut, and I'm going to just take a normal pair of scissors and cut that circle out as carefully as I can. I'm not very good at cutting circles. I don't know about you. I think it's because I got the shakes. Again, some of that foil will be shining through, so you get that really nice shiny finish to it. Look at that. Oh, I haven't done too bad a job on that. Oh, I've done quite a good job on that, I think. And so for this next one, what I'm going to do is just cut some little flakes like this of all the different colours. And I'm going to put them in a pot. I don't mind if some of them are crinkled and some of them aren't. Good old yoghurt pots. I'm trying to do some different sizes as well and some different shapes so they're not all the same shape and size. This next one is really easy. All I'm going to do is roughly crumple up my foil like this and then flatten it out. But I still want those crumples in it like that here. And then I'm going to take my UV resin and then put some shapes on it. But I want it quite thin on here. So what I'm going to take is this little silicone tool here and thin it out. I want quite abstract, yellow. And you're going to be really surprised at this, how easy it is to shape at the end. Again, thin that out a little bit. Because this is the coloured UV resin by J Addiction as well. When we're not putting it on thick, what you'll find is the actual foil will still shine through it quite well. And I want to put a bit of black in this as well to contrast it. And this is the glittery one. So now that's done, what I'm going to do is cure that up for a minute to start with. I got my other bits all cut out and all shaped, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a minute. So there we go. That's had a minute now, and that should be nicely firm, but not super fully cured. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. So I need to decide which one I'm going to put it on. So I'm going to put it on in this one and get the rough shape that I want. There we go. That's the rough shape I want in there. I'm probably going to do another one of those and do it for this one as well. And this last one is as simple as can be. All I've got here is a shape of tin foil, and that's without anything on it, completely plain. And I've got one of my charms that I get out of these bulk charms. Now, I want this charm to be filled with red. So let me quickly show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to get a bit of damming tape, and you can use any charm you want. You don't need to use a heart. You could use any shape. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with these ones. Let's get the red. And this is the glitter UV resin I'm using here. Fill this up right to the edge. And then cure that up for 3 minutes. So that's nice and cured now. And what I'm going to do is place this 4-leaf clover charm I've got there. And then using some high viscosity resin, attach that by going around all the edges. The reason I'm using high viscosity is it's nice and sticky, and it's going to stay where you want it. And it'll fill that up really well. Get it in place. And now let's cure that up for 3 minutes. Well, let's pop the bubbles that have come up on it. So that's all cured now, and I can take that off the back. If I take it off nice and slowly, then it's not going to have any sticky on it, and I can pop that in there like that. And if you want to add any of these charms to any of these, you can. I'm not going to, because I want to show you exactly how they come out. Now, this last one is with all these bits, and this is the one that I'm going to do now, because these ones I'm doing with epoxy resin, but this one I'm doing with UV resin. So the first bit is to put, and I'm using the low viscosity UV resin here because I want to ensure that it doesn't dome. Burn off any bubbles. Now, you will trap bubbles on this. That is not a problem if you put it in while your resin isn't cured. But if you cure your resin up first and do it in layers, then you won't have that problem as much. So that's now cured, and what I'm going to do is choose my little bits of foil that I'm going to put here, and then I'm going to push these flat in this layer. Now, don't do too many in your first layer because you want to build up different layers. So now what I'm going to do is going to put another thin layer of UV over this. And the great thing about this is you can do more than, if you're doing this technique, you can make 10 or 12 at once and then cure up. So now we'll cure that up. So this is still curing up, and while that's curing up, what will happen is the UV resin will probably cause the alcohol inks to bleed a little bit off that foil, and that is what I'm hoping for. So that one's cured up now, and what I'm going to do is put my next layer on, pushing that down and then covering that with some UV resin. And now that's all covered, we can let that cure up for another 3 minutes. And now this is the last layer that we're going to put on, but if you want to do more layers, then you can. And we have got a little bit of bleeding happening, which I like, but not as much as I hoped for. And then we can put this on the last coat. And what I'll do is for this one, when I take it out, I will probably dome it as well to ensure that it has that extra magnification. And now I can cure that up for another 3 minutes. So while that's curing up, what I'm going to do is mix up my resin ready for the one-to-ones. I'm going to be using this one, Pure Glossy by T Expert. So I'm now ready to put these into resin, but I'm going to be working forwards instead of backwards. So this part of the mold will be the back of the actual piece. I'm taking these out at the moment. And now what I'm going to do is mix in my resin some black. I want the back to be black. Back to black. And now I can pour this into here, and I want it about halfway up this mold. And now what I'm going to do is quickly go over them with my long neck lighter. I want these to cure up to the gel stage. So they're not quite cured, but they're a little bit sticky. And I do often miss that. And if I miss it, then I've got a way of getting over that, which is no problem at all. There we go. So this should be at the gel stage now. So I'm going to check it using this little tool. Yeah, and it's got a nice thick gel stage to it. And this is where I want to put in these pieces. Now you need to do this quite carefully, because what you don't want to do is push your resin over and above your actual piece that you're putting in. But you do want to make sure that you've got a good contact all the way around to ensure that you actually don't get any trapped bubbles. Now, I inevitably will get some bits rolled over it, like I have here, and then I'm going to attempt to take those out before they do too much messing about with it. So there we go, they're all in there now, and what we'll do is we'll leave that to cure up fully before we do anything else to it. So these have all cured up now, and I'm ready to put my top layer on. Now, because I'm going to dome these once this is all cured, what I'm going to do is just fill it right up to the edge rather than try and get any sort of dome on it now. And that way I can burn off the bubbles when they come up, and there will undoubtedly be some bubbles come up, especially in this one where it's all crinkly. And for this one, the best way I've found of doing this is popping a bit in like that, then dropping that in, giving it a bit of a squidge down to push out any air that's underneath it, and then fill it up. And then what I'll do is I'll give those 5 minutes, and then I'll burst any bubbles using a long neck lighter. So these are all cured up now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they've come out. I love these ones that we made with the coloured UV resin. Oh, this poor mould is getting a bit past it now. And that, I think, is beautiful. I'm going to show you that one at the end. Now, because we slightly underpoured these, it gives us that little indentation there. And that's what we want, because we want to dome these up next. I will link the mould and everything I've used in the description below. And I'm going to be using the high viscosity UV resin for doming. I always use it. I love it. And what I'm going to do is fill this all up, going all the way around. Try and do it in one squeeze if you can, because that way you are far less likely to get any bubbles in your UV resin. Go around the edge of the loop where the thing goes, and it's surprising how much doming will transform this piece. And we'll leave that now, and just in case there's any bubbles that might want to come up, I'll finish filling the rest in the same way and then cure them up. So now they've been sitting for a little while, what I'm doing is just going over these and bursting any bubbles that I may have inadvertently put in. And now I can cure these up, and I'm going to cure them up for between 3 and 5 minutes. Now, if for some reason your UV resin doesn't cure up, or you feel it doesn't cure up properly and it has a slight sticky skin to it, that isn't actually the UV resin not curing properly. It's something that happens with oxygen in the air with UV resin. It doesn't happen all the time, it happens sometimes. Now, if you want to know how to cure that and stop that happening and deal with that, then check out the video I've got coming up next. It's also full of tons of tips and tricks on using UV resin. I think you'll love the video, and I'll link it above. So these are all finished now, and this is the one that we created with the layers. And it did get a little bit of bleeding going on in there, which I'm so pleased about, because it helps to connect them all up. If you want it to bleed a little bit more, you can actually move the pieces of foil around slightly in there, and that will help it to bleed. But I think that one has come out absolutely beautiful. I love that one. These are the ones where we use the UV resin on them. Again, they've come out really nice. And don't they look just so much better once they're domed? This is the crinkled foil. Again, that's very, very pretty. The normal foil with just the bit of alcohol ink on it. And then the normal foil with the charm inside. That's 5 techniques of being able to use a really cheap product to get some great effects with your resin jewellery. I'm not sure which my favourite is. I actually think it's this one and these two. So I think it's these 3 are my favourite, and I know these ones are always very popular. Check out the video I've got coming up next. As I said, it's about how to prevent your UV resin being sticky at the end. That video should be coming up now about here. Boot the like button, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. But most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.